Let's just flip it over here. Okay. Hello. Welcome into another Let's Talk video. So, we are going to be going on a bit of this Wukong stuff once again, and I know I've made plenty of videos on this going over, the different Chinese influences and everything else, but I wanted to finally, since we have now good solid numbers and everything that's coming out of all this stuff, I wanted to go over basically when it comes to does the Chinese government get money from all this 10 million units sold? And we're going to go into just how much estimated this all is in revenue and everything. Yeah, Black Myth Wukong, it's a giant success. China has won. And this is not the first game that China has won with. If you remember, Genshin Impact was huge. Naraka was pretty big, but this is probably the biggest game that they've had. I don't know if Genshin Impact had more players online than Wukong did. I mean, Genshin Impact is a MMO. I'm pretty sure. It's like it's a co-op MMO experience. I'm pretty sure it's mobile and PC. But Wukong is single player. It's on a couple different platforms and all that. So yeah, let's now that we have the numbers, so, and this is something that I said that I was going to do before. I said this before that I was going to check back into all this stuff and like figure out numbers wise, money wise, and everything. And now we actually have like a solid data to go by of all this stuff. Let's look into it. Let's see where the money trail leads. Let's see where all this everything goes back and forth. So but before we jump into like doing searches and everything, there is stuff that I think there is some stuff that people don't remember and don't realize when it comes to over the years of the reason why I've been kind of against China when it comes to the gaming space. And I wanted to like do a little bit of a reminder to everyone on this stuff. So let's go back to, I'm going to jump around the timeline a little bit, but there was this whole thing about, let's flip it over to here, the Free Hong Kong movement, which, this was a huge thing of, Hong Kong, Special Administrative Region of People's Republic of China that has until recently largely been free to manage its own affairs based on one country, two systems, which means they have two forms of government, basically the CCP party, and then you have the CCP, which is Communist Party of China, and then you have the People's Republic of China, and this pushed into gaming when there was a bunch of especially one player from one player got let's see here. Yes, this was a few years ago. 你就讲完那8个字，然后导播我们就结束，我们就什么也都不要聊了。然后你随时可以开始，头先低下来。光复香港时代革命。Now, of course, there was different stunts and everything. Again, whether or not they're in the right or wrong in this, that's totally, up to your own interpretation of it. But just remember that this stuff was happening.
Free Hong Kong, revolution of our times.
Sounds good to me.
And the fact that you have people in the background rolling their eyes when this is like actually a major issue just goes to like that's one of those things in gaming where people just dismiss what is actually happening because it's not in our local news all the time, because China does have its own separate network and everything, which a thing called Call of Duty Online that was specifically made for China. Activision, Tencent, of course, because Tencent is basically the only company over there that you can really work with on a normal, regular basis over in China, because China is so locked down because they have so much IP theft and different things happening over there like that on the business side with the higher ups and everything. So Santa Monica, California, Shanghai, Activision, Holy. Okay, so we're not going to read through the whole thing, but the development of Call of Duty Online was led by veteran Call of Duty Raven Software, inspired by Blockbuster. So basically, it's a greatest hits, critically acclaimed hits Modern Warfare, and Black Ops. This was from 2015. So almost 10 years ago, I've been seeing about China having to have their own version of things made and their own networks that they have set up that where people cannot communicate some in a lot of ways, and like because they have their own social media over there and everything else, so it's hard to get a lot of like concrete diehard information. And if you do get information, you have to translate it, and trying to translate that can be a nightmare. Well, it really is a nightmare between the two languages of of English and Chinese. So there has been a lot of information where it's just like, okay, what is truth? And then you also have, of course, clickbait articles and everything else that is like, well, sometimes it's clickbait articles. Then there's other articles that are actual journalism, but then people claim it's clickbait and everything. So it's like China is always just it's a really rough region of the world to try and figure out, is it good business or not? And so let's see here. Millions of gamers in the West have come to appreciate the white-knuckled epic thrill ride Call of Duty delivers. Audiences will experience this for the first time. We believe Call of Duty Online is going to be a game changer for Chinese gamers. And again, it's basically just a best of Call of Duty. And if you wondered, can I get in on this? Well, no, because Call of Duty Online in China to be shut down in August as COD Mobile gains popularity in region. And which, of course, the reason why I have this brought up is more than 700 million Android smartphones, some of which were used in the US, carried hidden software that enables surveillance by tracking users' movements and communications. A Virginia-based team of security researchers found the firmware discovered by CryptoWire was reportedly authored by Chinese startup Shanghai, a DIPS technology company. And there's like a whole bunch of, ability to spy on. This is even CNN. Like this is, I would say Bing is also, it's Microsoft, so it's also very liberal leaning, if you will, or left leaning in your news search results on all this stuff. And even even a search engine like Bing, you can Google it too. You're going to get even worse results. But, just seeing this stuff pop up all over the place of Chinese spyware. And now all of a sudden we are bringing in China into AAA gaming spaces where they are selling 10 million copies worldwide. Again, this is the reason why I'm so hesitant around this stuff. So let's also take a look at the fake markets of China too. Again, so this is Beijing fake markets, which it's whole malls of just things that are they haggle and everything else. This is from 6 months ago. Do not promote the production, sale, or purchase of counterfeit goods. My videos are basically just to show that it's happening. They have whole department store malls and everything with all this stuff, and it's like giant malls, or at least one major mall in China with giant department stores with nothing but knockoffs in it. Like most majority of all this stuff is all marked down, just knocked off items that, and a lot of this stuff ends up on Amazon and eBay and all these, especially Temu. Like basically they made their own Amazon website of Temu to try and sell all this stuff on. So if I'm a little bit like suspicious of a game like Wukong, a game like Genshin Impact, a game like, Phantom Blade coming up, any of these Chinese made games, if I'm a little bit suspicious of it, I mean, hell, I played Naraka on stream. I'm still undefeated in that battle royale. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know how to feel about this. And it's not that I'm just trying to hate on China. It's that China has been doing some suspicious stuff over the years. All right, so there is an article, Black Myth Wukong, 10 million copies sold in 3 days compared to other best-selling games. This is from Game World Observer. Let's see here. Sold 10 million across all three platforms. Let's see here. So this is the funny part too, is like Elden Ring sold 12 million copies in 16 days and Black Myth Wukong sold 10. So, people are like, oh my God, it's the greatest selling thing ever. And it's like, well, okay, so various analysis research firms continue to share data on the successful launch. Meanwhile, break records on Steam. Update gain science officially announced that yes. As reported yesterday, Chinese in analytics analytics. There we go. Jeez, estimated Black Myth Wukong's first over 4.5 million within 3 million of those on Steam. So this is interesting here. Both platforms use their own algorithm methods to estimate sales revenue of Steam games. VG Insights combined data from its own database of actual sales figures with the box box letter method, number of user reviews multiplied by X, and adjust its data used in Steam's weekly top. Okay, keep in mind that each method is not perfect. VG Insights says it estimated about 5% margin of error. 99%. Okay, so copies sold was 8.7 million, although this is now 10. Gross revenue for the base game, so 472 million. I was seeing a different number of like 200 million, but okay, so 230 million. So yeah, that's the number I was actually seeing was 230 million when I looked it up earlier on AI search. Again, AI search can have very skewed results. Unfortunately, I can't bring the AI search results up because it's saying like you hit your daily quota for the all that, and I can't like bring the results back up again. Unfortunately, because I didn't do it on this computer. But let's see here. Active players, 1.5 million. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit outdated at this point, but you can also one of the things to notice though is majority of the player base is from China, 81.6%. So in that Chinese network, which apparently I guess Steam or at least Epic. I guess they would have Steam and Epic games in China because of the fact that that Wukong, well, that China owns Epic. And again, I promote Unreal Engine. I like the Epic Game Store. It is owned by Tencent. That is China. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. It's Activision Shanghai. Again, it's not that I'm like just diehard against China, but I just want to make sure that China is, in the gaming industry, that we don't have some weird stuff happening from China. That's my big focus on this. Firm says game generated 1.7 billion views on Chinese social media platforms. Weibo within the last 48 hours. Again, China has their own social media, which this is because of the CCP. Now, when I also looked up, I looked up on the AI Bing search to see if it could like maybe translate from Chinese to English. Anything that was like, does the CCP take any revenue? It basically said that it couldn't find any sources saying that there was, that the CCP, because apparently the CCP is a regulation firm and not a revenue draw. But okay, this could be something here. Let's see here. Tencent more powerful than you think, despite concerns over Chinese government restrictions. Chinese companies like Tencent continue to grow. Significant cash flow dominance extends beyond China, with its products and services being widely used internationally. Business segments include gaming, social networks, advertising, video, streaming, music. Yes, they own little chunks of a lot of different companies, and in doing so, they end up making a bunch of money outside of China and bring it back into China. Investors have avoided Chinese companies regardless of the fundamentals. Continuous restrictions, sanctions imposed by Chinese government has spread strong. Yeah, so they're in an alliance with Square Enix. They own 40% of Epic, 5% of Activision Blizzard, Paradox, Ubisoft, 100% owned Riot Games, League of Legends, and League of Legends, like in 22 alone, made $1.8 billion. It's so again, Wukong and all these games are coming to PlayStation such that are like Souls likes that everybody's going nuts over. Yes, China has been making money for years off from gaming. They are going to continue to. And another interesting article here: Tencent Holdings has raised its shareholdings of Chinese game developer Game Science. This is the one that makes Wukong, to deepen cooperation. Insider familiar with the matter. Giant Tech stake is 5% after the deal, the smallest stake among all the stockholders. So this is from 2021 when they were still a smaller indie company. So Game Science is still an indie company, but they are on the AAA side of the budget now. So that 5% most likely went up to 10% because that's usually what Tencent does. It's kind of funny that their name is Tencent. They owned up to 10%. Has committed not to interfere with the Hangzhou-based indie studios' operation decision making. Tencent mainly aims to help its former employer to work on some projects rather than deliberately seek commercial returns. Really, though? Um, two former Tencent workers who are involved in development. Azura, that founded Game Science in 2014. Hopes that Tencent can offer more technical support. So it looks like the developers are in line with Tencent. Like Tencent is a giant corporation, and there is probably parts of Tencent that is like little teams of Tencent that is just looking to help out, um, looking to help out studios. Let's see here. 2021 also Tencent acquires 5% stake in the Wukong developer Game Science. So again, um, this is from also Game World Observer. To go back to this one, Perez also spoke with Bloomberg. Black Myth Wukong, a Chinese-made game backed by Tencent, which has become the second most popular title ever on Steam. A strong first day performance, which could shore up expectations of China's $40 billion gaming arena after years of regulatory scrutiny. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, they already have 40 billion in the gaming industry, and we're talking $230 million that Wukong is making. Probably another maybe $100 million for Phantom Blade if they're lucky. So in the grand scheme of things, this is like it's a smaller drop in the buckets overall. I mean, this is Bloomberg, but still, this is interesting. That's not really information you need to share at all. Tencent is simply an investor and one of the biggest in the world. No company needs to state what private investors they have. And if you actually read what they said, Tencent was the only company willing to invest in without giving up any creative control, such as how investors require you to promote their products in your product. Now, that's a fair point right there of creative control, because that's the reason why when there was other companies coming in. So basically, Game Science did the one thing that they could do to basically, advert like Sweet Baby Inc. over here, that they go into trying to get their hands into a lot of different games, Suicide Squad, Alan Wake 2, you name it. So yeah, a woke agenda, which it really, that it is, the DEI thing. It really screws up if the story writers have one idea for a set number of characters and everything, and then all of a sudden these guys come in and mess. They mess with the ideas. They are former Ubisoft developers. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I always liked Ubisoft Montreal. I still do. I like Ubisoft's stuff that they make. Do I agree with everything? No, of course not. Do I like that Ubisoft has that whole DEI department basically, and they promote all the LGBT stuff on their website and everything? No, because I don't like it thrown in my face, and I don't like stories being rewritten to satisfy somebody else's personal opinion. It should just be creative freedom, which is what Wukong is. That's what they were striving for, was creative freedom. And that aspect, again, I do like what they're doing at Game Science. But I think my biggest worry of the whole thing was that Tencent would be taking the cash and pushing it over to Chinese government officials that are really trying to mess with us over here, and it's just like, why would I want to fund that? And I think the more I'm looking into this and the more I'm doing more and more research on all this stuff, that I am starting to get a little more lenient on the Chinese thing, because and this is the reason why I'm saying anything like this, because is on the fact that uh basically it's like 5 to 10% stake in different companies. I mean, hell, I play Fortnite all the time. That is, but at this point it'd be like me saying, like, I'm never, I don't like the current White House administration, so I'm not going to buy a game because the taxes go towards paying for their job. And I get it. It's in that aspect, yes. Now, the other thing that I was worried about was the PC version having that spyware, just like I was showing you before of the mobile phone. You think the PC software wouldn't have that? Now, when it comes to the PlayStation side of things, I don't think they could even make that run into PlayStation. And here's the other thing too. I was wondering if, because there's going to be modders out there. There always is, and they're going to jump into the game files of especially something like Black Myth Wukong and try and like mess around in the game files and see if there's any, the pirate community, if you will. They are most likely trying to hack the game right now, going through with a fine tooth comb on everything, trying to see if there is any spyware, if there is, how can we hack the game to make it, or crack the game, as they call it, to make it so, we can play it for free on the PC. And yeah, I was kind of wondering, I keep my eye and my ear on that community, because they're the ones that were showing, like, hey, Denuvo makes games run a little bit worse and everything. There's a lot you can actually learn off from, because they are essentially coders, and they are essentially kind of, in a sense, kind of game developers in that way, of like, they're going through and they're figuring out, like, hey, okay, so this one thing here is making the game engine slow down, and then it helped out Capcom of like, oh, well, Denuvo is messing things up, maybe we'll drop Denuvo out of our game after a year or so, after it really sells, and we get the profit back, because the companies need to make the money back that they're getting from investors and all that. And yeah, so if the money all went to the People's Republic of China, where it's just like their actual like government, and it's not the communist part of it, that it throws all the rules and regulations on there. And I think most everyone can agree with that. Rules and regulations from that side of the Chinese government is bad. And a lot of the side of that government, they start things worldwide. And so that's why I'm like, if I could do anything to make sure that they don't get funding, and like the regular government of China that I've been seeing all this stuff about, of, that is better, and that we've seen government officials from the US working with that side in the past, then I don't mind it. Uh, yeah, and it seems like, because of Game Science being privately owned, the only real payment that the bad side of their government could be getting is possibly from Tencent, of the, I think it's like 10% ownership that they have. 5% from what we're seeing on the record from 21. It's probably 10% now, because again, they upgraded to AAA status and all that. So yeah, it's almost, that is way better. That is way better there. Again, it's just one of those things. Like, I would much rather be on the safe side of this stuff, and I wanted to wait and to be able to really, again, there's a reason why I didn't do a launch night on this game, and I haven't done any coverage of the gameplay of, other than being like, again, the game seems very average, but this is the game that is making the revenue, stats show up. It's on that level big enough to where you can actually get some data and check through everything. On top of that, we also have more games coming from China, like Van Blade and whatever else comes out after this. That's you're going to want that peace of mind of what is exactly behind all the revenue and the business behind this. So, with all that being said, I am a little bit more lenient on Black Myth Wukong. I still hold what I said before about the game being kind of it's kind of overhyped, but yeah. Business wise, it's not as terrible as I was first expecting it to be. Of like where the money is going. Again, just trying to follow the paper trail to make sure that the gaming industry itself isn't getting caught up into the possible scheme of a communist part of a government and everything, and it just feels like a lot of people are overlooking that possibility. And hey, if I can throw the word out there as much as possible about that, of just be wary of it, especially with mobile phone stuff. Like mobile phone gaming from China is still bad news. Like that is, there is a lot of ways that they can steal information from you through your mobile phone. And the reason why it's easier on the mobile phone is because it's Android or iOS, and the security is a lot different than, say going through Steam, going through Windows, going through this and that. They have of all these different platforms like PlayStation. There's not much information there other than maybe a credit card information, an email or something that they could get. But then it's going through a PlayStation network. It's going on to a PlayStation operating system. So it's different there, than your phone. Your phone is the least secure. So, again, way more lenient on Black Myth Wukong. I still think it's overhyped. If it goes on sale, I'd be willing to check it out and get hands on with it. I guess at this point, now that I've really been able to deep dive and go into everything, was I wrong on some of the stuff that I was saying before? Slightly, because I was thinking that the one major part that I was wrong, because I didn't know, because I could not get I could not get solid information. I still don't know if I have fully solid information on this, but from what I was hearing and seeing, was that basically the CCP had somebody in the development room, and or actually more on like the board of directors or whatever you want to say, like the higher ups for all these AAA studios. CCP had somebody in there working with them, so then they get the cut of it, and it goes back to that part of the government, and it doesn't go back to like the people. It goes to the government, and the people get screwed. And I was like, I don't like that business practice too much. And again, Activision, there's business practices there I don't like either. Sure. Yeah. So now that I'm seeing that it's not so much that they are taking the money, they're just throwing rules and regulations on there of like, well, you can do this, you can't do that, and all that stuff. Okay. I can. I think I can be a little more lenient on the Chinese gaming side of AAA developments. Again, mobile games still no way, but yeah, and especially if something is being partly funded by Sony, which is Japan, that's cool. Because then it's not so much. We're getting as much away from the Chinese market of things, and then that's kind of Japan helping out, with the funding for that. So then the Chinese markets aren't exactly, because again, the Chinese markets, they got so much. Again, like Timu and knockoffs and this and that and the other thing. I don't really like the Chinese markets whatsoever at all. Never have. For 10 years, I've really hated Chinese market stuff. So ever since I learned about like what they do with the Chinese markets. Anyways, this video is a long one, sort of, but I feel like there's a lot of major information that is coming from all this Black Myth Wukong hype, and there's a lot of information from the launch of it. Again, I think a major thing for me is like I wanted to see the data and where the money trail leads with Black Myth going into Phantom Blade, because I think Phantom Blade looks way better than Black Myth Wukong. Personally, I think Phantom Blade looks really, really cool, just because it's almost like a Matrix style. It's got that kind of, you're running up the wall and jumping over and everything. So that, to me, that catches my eye a lot more. I think Black Myth Wukong is kind of, it's almost like that Sekiro, like where there's some stuff missing from it to make it like this, as hyped up as a game is. I think there's some stuff gameplay wise that's kind of missing. Maybe I might just sit down and do something with Black Myth. We will see. I know everybody's going nuts over it. I don't know. I think it's kind of average. I just think it's really shiny, and I get that the story is very popular. That's the reason why the hype is through the roof on it. Um, it's not so much the gameplay; it's the story to it. But anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Some good information in this video. Hopefully, I can edit it down so it's a little bit shorter. But that's hopefully this one doesn't break the internet of everybody being mad and everything. If you liked any of the information in this, make sure and hit that sub button. Trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. Again, trying to be as fair and balanced with all my coverage on this stuff, but I just know, like, when my gut feeling says there might be something off in the markets or something, I like to try and get in there and make sure that just get a peace of mind on it and everything. So yeah, anyways, if anybody else is looking at it like, Chinese made, well, that's there's a lot more information here, and the history of why people are so weary about Chinese markets too. So anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see you next time.